Discovering Your Destiny and More in 2021, Year of the Metal Ox with me. I found this lovely image, right? A $150 coin. I'd like one of those, please. I'd like a few of those. So actually, I think that would make a great Christmas gift actually for a few people as I look at that as well, right? And so, yeah, the metal ox. So we are going to talk about yourselves, your day masters, and a little bit of what's coming in 2021. Okay, turn my phone off. All right. Who am I? You know, and so a lot of you know me, but a lot of you don't know me, you know, like, and so I just want to talk a little bit about who am I to talk to you about Feng Shui, you know. And it's interesting. I work with a lot of different people, and I work with a lot of Asians, and often Asians, I'm working with an Asian realtor, an Asian owner, and it's like, and I'm the Feng Shui expert. So I certainly didn't grow up thinking I was going to become a Feng Shui expert. Quite the opposite. I grew up in a very fundamentalist Christian background, and I was adopted. And I share that always because it's an important aspect of actually my destiny, because those two parts made me question. I've always known, like, I'm 6 feet tall and my family was all 5'7" and under. I have 3 sisters who were born to my parents. And so this idea of feeling separate has always been there in me. And yet I remember as a child feeling I was connected to everything. I actually almost feel like I could remember before I was born that there is this, my soul came from a place of light, and that there are actually beings there who wanted to hold us and support us. And so I've always sort of had these two things going on. I'm connected and I'm not connected. And so that set up me to ask questions and to really question for myself, what is the truth? And that curiosity throughout my life has had me study religion, philosophy, astrology, metaphysics. And when I first started studying astrology, already in my teens, Western astrology, and people started reading my charts, I would have people say to me things like, why have you never met your father? It's like, how can they see that in a chart? And they go, well, it's written in the stars. That's the karma you were born with. And I started to see, and it was explained to me, that as souls, we have many lifetimes, and that we choose in our different lifetimes, if you will, blueprints or matrices to be born with to learn lessons. And I think actually one of the simplest lessons that we're here to learn is that we actually are all connected, that energy is connected, and that to try and keep our hearts open, to try and stay positive. Because when we bring negative energy to the field, it actually contaminates the field, right? And so I have studied religion, philosophy, psychology, and now for the last 25 plus years, been an expert, if you will, in Feng Shui. I didn't intend, originally it was a hobby. I'm a mother of 3 children. I worked with people with mental illness and drug and alcohol problems for many years as well. And it was just my hobby to study this. But over time, as you do something as a hobby, you become an expert at it. And as I became an expert in astrology, I saw that actually this is my destiny, right? And this is what I'm supposed to work with to help people understand connection and energy. And so that's just a little bit of who I am. The question that's important to understand before we actually look at the astrology charts is, what is destiny, right? And it's like, if you're an oak tree, I always use garden metaphors, okay? It's like, if you're an oak tree and you're wishing to be a banana, you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer because that's not who you are. And we are all born with a blueprint. Every living creature on this planet has a blueprint of energy. And when you understand the blueprint that you are, you can work with the energy fields of earth and nature and time to become the best of who you are. It's, you know, and one of my teachers said, when suffering occurs, when you're not in alignment with your destiny. And that is as simple a thought as, if you plant vegetable seeds in winter, they're not going to grow. Now, you're going to suffer if you're thinking that that shouldn't be that way. But if you're in alignment with the right energies and the right times, and you learn how energy works, then actually that's so empowering. So destiny is actually activating your luck, right? Activating your luck. And luck is not random, okay? the ancient Chinese scholars discovered that luck can be created. And so just like is it unlucky to plant seeds in November and expect them to grow? No, that's stupid, because you're actually not in time with what energy is, right? And so luck is actually, I think a lot of luck is common sense, but we've lost common sense. We don't even know how to feel energy anymore. We're not grounded to the earth or to the sky, and we're not listening to the signs and signals of the universe. You don't need to be an expert in astrology to understand how to do that, but you could. But when you learn how to work with those energies, what happens then is you learn what it takes to get to where you want to go, right? And so the Chinese would say that good luck is you were born into a family that has a good reputation, okay, and has prestige. And then you do better than your parents, and your children do better than you. That is the definition I was taught by my Chinese teachers of what good luck is. Now, can you have good luck if that didn't happen? Say you were born poor into a family of, like, well, actually, I'm considered to be very unlucky because my parents gave me away, and my birth father was an alcoholic. I'm the product of an affair. But you can turn that around. You can turn that into destiny, into seeing it as, oh, I'm actually supposed to, doesn't mean I'm not worth love. Doesn't mean I'm not worth having money. Doesn't mean any of that, or getting married or having relationships, but it might mean that that sets up a blueprint for me that I need to learn to work with because there's some obstacles, right? And I actually think it is easier to be happy and learn how to be happy if you've had a hard life than when life is easy. So many of my wealthy clients don't know gratitude, right? And sometimes it takes hardship in order to actually be grateful for what we have and to experience happiness. So Bazi, I'm assuming the fact that you're here, you know a little bit about Bazi, 4 Pillars of Destiny. And I don't have time to go through this in depth, this workshop with you. But if you don't have a copy of your chart, go to my website to this link and get a copy of your chart, because I'm going to be talking to you about who you are, okay? And who you are is we're going to be talking about the day masters, okay? So there's 4 pillars: the year, the month, the day, and the hour. And today, I'm mostly talking about who you are, which is the day stem or the day master, and it is the top part of the day, okay? So in this chart, Earth Tiger is the day pillar, and the reference point that I'm talking about today is Yang Earth. Now, you might be Yin Metal or Yin Water or whatever, but this is what we're talking about today, is your day master, okay, in relationship to energies. So Bazi is, there's this invisible energy that controls our lives. The Chinese call this energy qi. Qi permeates all things, the universe, our bodies, our homes, and the study of this energy in regard to people is called the Meng, or some say Ming. Meng literally translates to the words destiny or fate, and the study of the Meng in relationship to people is also known as 4 pillars, right? Year, month, day, and hour. Bazi is actually 8 characters, because Ba is 8 and Zi is like a character. If I say that incorrectly, please pardon my pronunciation, because I have never learned how to speak Chinese. This is a really, really important concept, the Cosmic Trinity, and I bring it up because there are 3 factors that control our life: heaven, earth, and man. Okay, and this is actually one of the statements that I read in the mid-90s that actually hooked me to the study of Chinese metaphysics, because I'd been an adept Western astrology already. I've been doing it for over 10 years. So in my blogs, I talk about the sun and the moon and different things. But one of the things that frustrated me in Western astrology, although you can see many, many things, I didn't see remedy. It's like, oh, Saturn is opposition Pluto, and what does that mean? Whereas when I came across Chinese astrology, one of the first things they said is you are born with an energy, you live in a place that has energy, and you do things that have energy. And it is actually a combination of all 3 that create your life and your fate. And it was like, oh, now it's 33% is what you're born with. So I'm a gardener. You know, originally I had huge, huge gardens growing up and in my earlier days. And so I knew that the quality of the seeds was important. It actually helped. And if you talk about breeding with animals and that, the quality of the breed helps determine, you know, like there's a lot of things to genetics, right? And so genetics is important. Now, we can't change that, but we can learn to understand it. And that's what Bazi is. It's like, okay. And the question to ask too, really, really important, to come to this from a perspective of the question, why did my soul choose to be born at that moment? This is not about a victim. This is about empowerment. Your soul chose to be born at that moment with this blueprint to learn lessons. So the question then is, what is the opportunity? Then Feng Shui is where we live, the earth. We can manipulate our energies by changing our environments, right? And so you can do this randomly with moving furniture around, moving houses, moving cities, things like that. But when you actually understand the study of Feng Shui, we know that down to degrees, there's 360 degrees. There are hexagrams and there are many different points. There's the 8 directions, that our energy blueprints have an energy, the environment has an energy, and when we connect the two, there's like a Wi-Fi signal connection, and we grow. We are in flow. And the third part is 33% is your actions. Well, I love that too, because you can be, the worst thing actually for anybody's success is laziness. If you are lazy, you will never get in. You can have a good chart and you can have good feng shui. And if you're lazy and don't act, nothing's going to happen. So a lot of teachers in all the methods, Tony Robbins, different, you know, Think and Grow Rich and all that stuff, that's about get off your ass and go up there and work and take action. You can change your luck by making energy move that way. So destiny and fate is a combination of all three. Well, how empowering. I'm so empowered and so lucky that I learned this, because by understanding my chart and time and manipulating my environment, right? And taking the right actions at the right time, I've changed my life. And I've changed the life and supported the lives of many. Now, change is maybe too hard, strong a word. I've maximized my potential, okay? And that's what I want to do for you. And that's why I teach, and that's why I consult, and that's what I love. So every person is born with a certain capacity in life, a life path. And this capacity governs your potential, overcomes, and achievements in life. Not everybody is destined to be a billionaire. Not everybody is destined to be happily married in the way that they might think. It might look different. I mean, I just told somebody yesterday, a very powerful woman, and she really loves her husband. It's her second husband, but he's perfect because he actually is the wife. What she needed is someone who acts like a wife. And when she told him that, he actually loved it, because he was able to, he has enough confidence in himself that he didn't see it as derogatory. He was like, that's exactly, I see my job in life is to help support you. And so we all have different roles. It's this that we suffer when we think they should be different. And also society makes us suffer. Well, society, but you know, there are these collective paradigms out there that we should be this or we should be that. And when we're trying to be something that inherently we're not, we'll suffer, right? And so part of this is just understanding who you are. So your Bazi is in effect a blueprint of your cosmic energy. It is set at the time of your birth. And with your first breath, these cosmic energies are recorded that were prevalent in that moment of that day, month, hour, and year. So with our first breath, we are encoded with the moments of the universe, whether you are a cesarean birth or not, your soul still chose at that moment for it to come in those circumstances. So just like every human being is born with a DNA code, we are also born with a Bazi code. These codes contain information that pertains to our existence, our characters, our traits, capabilities, health, and so much more. And so by understanding that, it's like, okay, is what's my strengths, what's my weaknesses, and by understanding time, what's the opportunities coming up. We are humans, though, with free will. Can we always create something if the timing's not right? Yes, we can. We can always make money. Uh, we can probably find someone to marry, but it might not be the person of our dreams at that time. You know, we can make things happen, but you have to, when you learn how to work with energy, it takes more effort. There's nothing wrong with more effort. In years that I've had clashes, I actually have done better because I knew waking up in those mornings when I didn't feel like it, that was just part of what was going on in the universe, and not to let that guide my actions, because I'd set goals and I knew that, okay, it's just going to be a little harder. You've all had times where opportunities just come to you like that, right? Without asking. And then there's other times you gotta, it's like, you know, climbing up a steep hill. Every single one you gotta, you know, make happen. And so understanding this is like working with it. Okay, Bazi is 8 characters. Bazi, Zuping, and 4 pillars of destiny are all different names for the same form of Chinese astrology based on the Meng, meaning life or fate. Setting you free. What a concept, eh? The Meng literally means life and refers to the invisible element that controls our life. It is the ultimate truth. Knowing the ultimate truth can set you free. The sun rises every day. The sun rises every day. And by understanding the energy, I just always love just looking at nature, because I think that God speaks in nature, right? And it's like, what is today? And I look to that for guidance with my breathing and my spiritual practice, as how can I be in alignment? Because what does nature do? It is always growing. It is always bringing life, even if it looks like it's not bringing life, because then it is getting ready for the next stage of life. And we go through those cycles too. Okay, so Bazi, the traditional way of looking at Bazi, the old-fashioned Chinese way, is that I even had Chinese teachers who, she would actually, Lily Chung, bless her, I studied with her for 15 years. And she said, she would often use the word, looking at people's charts, you're doomed. You're doomed. She would actually say you're doomed. And you'll hear other older Chinese people, it's fate, you cannot change fate. That's actually not true. The new way and the new consciousness, because there is a huge new consciousness happening now, and I'm sure you feel it if you're here talking with me, you know, with this whole, the opportunity of COVID and the energies that are happening. It's like there's an opportunity to change your life. And it's like, what are you being asked to do though, right? And it's like, now you take what you have and you make the best of it, right? And we are being guided. Now we see it as being guided and directed. Okay, you create and you recreate. We have that opportunity all the time. So Bazi is then used to make informed decisions, to live to the maximum of your potential and abilities, to understand our relationships with others, to choose the right career path, to avoid perils and downfalls in life, or to actually navigate through them, perhaps is a better way to say it. And of course, Bazi, because we have energy blueprints. The ox and the rooster and all these guys have friends and enemies, so to speak. It's like, well, how are you situated in your home? How can you make them connect? And activation is the art of awakening. Now, what does that mean? It means becoming who you are and not someone else. So if you are the sun, you should be the sun. If you are a tree, you should be the tree. And me, I'm a sword. I need to be a sword, right? I am yang metal. So fundamentals, very, very briefly, the concept of qi, okay? I love the character description for this word, qi. What it actually depicts here is the vapor of water steaming over a boiling pot of rice. Okay, and so if you think of that, rice sustains a nation or nations in this world. And so it implies life force. The word concept of qi is life force. It is life force energy. It is the invisible force that shapes, nurtures, and governs all living beings. It cannot be heard or seen. However, its influence can be felt around us in all places. It is visible by effect. You cannot see it, but you can see it by effect. And I know those of you on the call, there's many of you here who have lots of experience as consultants and whatnot, is you walk into a house and you can't see the energy, but you can see by people's lives what's going on, right? And many of you can feel it, but what I actually love about Feng Shui is you don't actually need to feel it. If you actually learn how to read a compass and read the formulas and to do those things, you can actually use that to guide you. Oh, it'll make me ask questions to people. It's like, well, how's your relationship, or how's your health? Or because you get indicators of those types of things. When you learn to read the landscape and how hills flow and in what direction they are and the type of water and all those things, you learn to see, oh, I bet you the people around here, there might be a higher crime rate, right? Like qi is visible by effect. You can't actually see it, but you can see it by effect. How do you know if you have a good life? Well, a couple things. You can see qi in people's eyes, but if qi is visible by effect, the question is, how is your life? Are you thriving? Are you getting opportunities? Do you wake up in the morning feeling rested and clear? Do you, do you feel, that you are blocked or not, right? So qi is visible by effect. It's not just marble counters, right? The language that we use in Feng Shui to describe energy is through yin and yang and 5 elements, okay? Like it really breaks down to just understanding yin and yang. And I had one teacher particularly even say to me, if you can understand yin and yang alone, that is you are a master of Feng Shui, right? And so the image here is very helpful in understanding. Yang qi is rising and yin qi is descending, okay? Together, it's like the sperm and the egg, right? Where they meet, there is fertility. Yin represents mountains. Yang is water. Together, they create the fertility of valleys and where people live. Like there's so many connections between the two. Yang qi is active, light, male, giving, and hard. Yin qi is dormant, shadow, female, receiving, and soft. We learn, when you understand Bazi and you understand Feng Shui, you actually learn to go, oh, the energy is asking you to be yin. Okay, that means listen, receive, balance with that. Yang energy is act, do. Like there's so many ways to work with this. With the language in astrology, also, we're going to talk about your day masters, yin and yang, okay? Remember now, active and passive. And then just to briefly, 5 elements. Qi then is ultimately expressed from yin and yang into the 5 elements of water, metal, fire, wood, and earth. Do not take these literally. They are actually a phase of qi, okay? And each has a different quality. I don't have time to go, I mean, as you can see, I get really excited about this because to me, it's like the title of my book, Do You See What I See? Because if you could see energy, actually, the reason I wrote it, and this is a beginner book, okay? Because the whole purpose of the book is actually to help people see qi. Because if you could see qi and you knew then, oh, the quality of qi here isn't that good, maybe you shouldn't move there, or maybe you should rearrange your room, or maybe, you know what I mean? You should go in another direction, like, or just learning how to feel qi, right? So, but for today, water is formless, intellectual, emotional. It is connected with wisdom and thinking, talent in the arts, and writing. Metal qi is a circular type of qi, okay? It is a contracting type of qi. It represents justice, righteousness, altruism, decisiveness, and quick-mindedness. So curious, we are in the year of the metal rat this year, which is metal and water. How many people are feeling righteous these days about politics and righteous about justice? And look at all the stuff that's come up just in this alone with Black Lives Matter, you know, and those types of things. Like this whole, people are, it brings up that the metal chi is strong, so it brings that up in us. With water chi, one of the things that comes up with water is fear. And the fear is strong this year too, right? Like the fear is what might happen, uncertainty of the future, you know, those types of things. Like, so just understanding the elements helps you understand the energy of the year. Metal and water rule the lungs, right? They rule the lungs. And so what is coronavirus attacking? Our lungs, right? Not a surprise, because that's the energy of the year. That's the prevalent energy. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Earth chi is the foundation of all things: trustworthy, integrity, reliability, patience. Fire is illuminating, propriety, elegance, passion, intelligence, honesty, and fire is transforming energy. There is no fire in the energy of this year. So what's needed is fire, meaning people need to behave politely. Are we? No, because there is no fire. Like, so we have to work harder at it this year. But the other thing that's really important for all of us, fire represents spirituality. So a spiritual practice this year, and I'm not talking religion, I'm talking spiritual practice. A spiritual practice can be spending time in nature, yoga, meditation, okay? Use that to help support yourself this year. And then wood chi is progressive, growth, benevolence, kindness, honesty, scholarship, and speaking skills. These are just a very small list of the elements. Now, hopefully you've identified what your day master is. Right here already is a clue to some of the initial qualities of your personality that are important to you. Okay, now this is a general guide. There's a lot of other factors, but this is just your day master. Okay, like, okay, do I have some of this? Definitely, as a metal person, altruism is important to me, and the right justice, you know, catching myself on that, doing the right thing. It's too much to actually explain this whole diagram, but for those of you that are new and looking at this, the 5 elements have relationships with each other. They support each other, they are friends to each other, they control each other, they weaken each other. And in astrology, we use terms like resource and output and wealth and husband, or, you know, elements to describe. And I'm going to talk about the 10 gods a little bit at the end. But it's understanding the relationships of the 5 elements to each other that helps you understand astrology. Okay? Okay, the 10 heavenly stems. There are 5 elements. So we've gone from chi to yin and yang to 5 elements. And the 5 elements have a yin and a yang representation. Okay? There's Yangwood and Yinwood, Yang Fire and Yin Fire, Yang Earth, Yin Earth, Yang Metal, Yin Metal, Yang Water, Yin Water, and I'm going to talk about each one, okay? The 10 stems, the broad quality of the elements is refined into yin and yang. Each polarity of the element behaves differently. In order to fully understand what I'm going to say to you about the 10 stems, you have to think of them as a picture. It helps. And that's actually one of the things I really love about Chinese astrology, because it helps you understand. Because remember I said activating your potential? How do you step into your power and destiny? You have to become who you are. Well, just start trying to see that as a picture, okay? Of the 10 stems, Yangwood is a tree. And I'm going to go into depth with each of these. I'm just going to go through this right now briefly, okay? So a tree. Qualities of Yangwood: strong, practical, grounded, stubborn, right? Inflexible. Does a tree bend? No, a good tree does not bend. You know, I mean, maybe unless you're a willow tree, parts of you, but not all of it, right? Yinwood is a flower or a vine. It's different. It actually does bend. So one would have more of a practical personality. Both are kind, because the energy of wood is kindness. Why is wood kind? Because it gives us food, it gives us shelter, it gives us so many things, right? And so the energy of wood is kindness. But with yin and yang, they're a little bit different. Fire. You have Yang Fire, which is the sun, and you have Yin Fire, which is a candle or man-made flame. They are very different in their qualities, even though both are generous and warm and passionate and giving, because fire's job is to light the way, right? And so that's parts of your personality. The sun, though, rises and sets every day. So it's very independent, right? Whereas, and likes routine, can be a bit overbearing because, you know, and I'll explain more. Whereas Yin Fire, bright, sensitive, passionate, perhaps oversensitive, extreme, because Yin Fire relies on wood to burn, right? And so very different energy type of fire than Yang Fire. Earth, you have a mountain or a large rock, and you have soft earth, Yin Earth being soft, okay? Stable, dependable, trustworthy, slow moving, stubborn. Like Earth people value trustworthiness. They are nurturing, supportive people, not so quick to move, very tolerant, right? Earth, Yin Earth, productive, creating, nurturing, needy, greedy. Why we say greedy with Earth is because the wealth element for Earth is water, and all Earth to be productive needs water. Now, this doesn't mean that you're greedy for money necessarily. Might be emotions, might be connection, might be different things, but there is this, there comes with Earth a bit of a longing, right? A longing. Yang metal, iron ore or a sword, proud, action-oriented, decisive, authoritative, impulsive. Yin metal, dignified, creative, articulate, judgmental, vengeful. Yang water, driven, intelligent. It's the ocean or a large lake, focused, obsessive, secretive. Yin water, mysterious, wise. It's a cloud, knowledgeable, unrealistic, can be fickle. So I'm going to go into depth with these. What does a pillar look like? This is a pillar, okay? This is the year pillar, but it could be the month pillar or the day pillar. What's on top is called the stem. What's the animal is called the branch. And then you have what's inside the animal we call the hidden stems, and they are elements, okay? The Chinese calendar is a cycle of 60 that repeats 60-year cycles, 60-month cycles, 60-day cycles, and 60-hour cycles. And they all repeat in a continuing loop. And so when you understand the calendar, that it's going to find a lozenge. You can actually see what's coming next. And so actually right now here, we are in the year of the Earth Rat. Next year is the year of the Earth Ox. And then we have the year of the Metal Tiger. So for those of you that are students of astrology, when you identify what elements are your good elements, or what years are your good years, or what, you know, like what elements, then we look for them in time. We strategically position ourselves in our timing. It's kind of like, this is our calendar. When is spring? When is winter? When's the relationship? When's the money? How do we work with this? This is the calendar we use. So when who you are is your day pillar. When you're activated, everything you see, everything happening for a reason. You see that you have a purpose. You see that you can create your destiny and that the world is full of opportunities. When your day pillar is dormant or sleeping, you see life as limited and as a victim, and that life is fated and that your luck is not good. So how exciting, right? Like here is actually a tool where you can jump and discover who you are and work with that. Okay, again, this is what a chart looks like. Just to show you, today we're actually focusing really on just the day, and then we'll look at the year chart. But when I do astrology readings, or when you look at your own chart, each of the pillars tells us information about our lives. So the year pillar was traditionally looked at as our ancestors, you know, and our DNA. The month pillar is our parents. And our parents in the old days, like in the Chinese old days, And even in Europe, the older days, it was our family ancestry that to a large degree determined the type of work and jobs we would have, the education and those types of things. And so hence the month pillar is looked at as career. The month pillar is also the strongest chi of the month. And so any interactions that happen to that pillar, because it determines the strength of the 5 elements, tell us what's happening in the chart with the other elements. The day is yourself and your relationships, your most important relationships, which would be your spouse. And then the hour is traditionally our children. Now, today we say thoughts, ideas, and desires and feelings or dreams, that the hour pillar is our dreams, because traditionally our children were our dreams and hopes for the future. And so this is just a one, like Chinese, Western astrology has 12 houses. Chinese astrology has 8. And then there's the luck cycle. But so again, go to this, my website, and you can print up a copy of your chart. Okay, so let's get into the 10-day masters. The day master is you. It is the essence of who you are, your inherent nature. Understanding a person through their chart always begins with their day master. The day master defines the entire chart as it is the reference point for all other elements, which we call the 10 gods. Each day master has likes and dislikes and fears and needs, and each day master fundamentally needs something. By identifying your fundamental needs, you understand the heart of a person's character. Okay, so here's an image of Jia, Yangwood, a tree. So when you look at that tree, right, if you are Yangwood, what are things that you could say, I could say about your personality? Well, you need earth because to grow, right? You need water, you need sunshine, right? And so one of the characteristics of wood people is they get along usually with other people because they have to. That means that there's people in their lives. They are dependent on other natures, right? A beautiful tree also needs an axe, right? Because to be pruned, right? So these are things. So in time, when those elements come in, then that's what we could say is, well, if you're born with them in your chart, then you're so-called born lucky. If you don't have them in your chart, then we go looking for them. So we could look for them in time. There's things, you might marry someone who has those elements in their chart. Like we look for them in different ways. So for wood, think of a tall tree, a large tree trunk, personality, strong, practical, grounded, territorial, right? Steady, direct, stern, strong, symbolizes honesty and kindness. So how do you know if you're a good tree? You're honest and kind. What would be a chart that's not a good tree? Potentially, you have too much water in the chart or not enough water, because then the tree isn't solid, right? And so then, and it's not, I don't think any of us are born thinking, I'm going to be dishonest or I'm going to be a liar. I don't think that that's how it goes at all. But I think when we're afraid and when we don't feel supported, that we do things that we might be withholding or secretive or things like that. People only don't tell the truth when they don't, well, I mean, there's exceptions, and I don't want to get into those. But in general, as human beings, it's because we don't feel safe, right? Resourceful. So see, it needs water, earth, fire, and metal. A tree, actually, one of the ways you can tell by looking at a person if they are what we call a good tree is, are they, do they have good posture? Because a tree should stand straight, right? Straight to the point, honest, loyal, steadfast, persistent, stubborn. They have a complex set of requirements because it needs yin earth, ideally, yin water, ideally, sunshine and yang metal. Now I know for, if you're brand new and listening to this, this is too much information, but I also know there's a lot of you on this who are very experienced in Bazi. And so I'm wanting to give you all something here. And actually there's a lot of my past students on here as well. Positioning of the elements is important. Yin earth should be below. Gui water should be below and Bing should be above. Okay, so this is helpful to understand for those of you that are looking to understand how to read charts in more depth, right? And Yang wood needs pressure and stress in life in order to succeed, which is metal. Now, when you understand the quality. Now, say there's no water in the chart. In Chinese astrology, water represents education. Resource is education, or your mother, or things like that. So one of the ways we can bring in what's needed is by bringing in the qualities of what that represents. Now, if you need yang metal, right, then put yourself under some stress and pressure. Now, this might not necessarily be stress and pressure at work. Go get a heavy duty exercise routine. That's stress and pressure. And that'll actually help the tree become a more beautiful tree. So this is the really cool thing. When you actually understand what the elements represent, you can bring in those actions or people. It doesn't like yang metal, okay, because we call that 7 killings, but it actually needs it for growth, which means it's hard and unpleasant, right? But whoever said life was easy? It's not. Right? And so I'm just showing you here how we look at this and what you need for growth. Some famous Yinwood people are Elon Musk and Meghan Markle and Justin Trudeau, our Prime Minister. Now, Yinwood is very different. Yi, right? It is a flower. It is a vine, right? Or grass. And it has also a complex set of requirements to be beautiful wood. You are, again, kind, adaptable. If you are Yinwood, you are a survivor, right? Because it instinctively in your nature is finding where to go to grow. Now, part of your job as being Yinwood is to be beautiful, right? Just like the flower, you are born, so you are probably someone that spends time in your appearance. Or if you don't, consider doing it if you're wanting to activate yourself and perhaps your potential, right? Like you're supposed to be not necessarily pretty, but attractive, right? Like to pay attention to being attractive. That is part of the job of a flower or a vine. The words we use to describe Yinwood are flexible, adaptable, fickle, charming, intelligent, calculative, cunning, benevolent, optimistic, needs the support of others, known to be a climber. Now, that doesn't mean a bad thing. It actually means that you're strategic, right? You actually can figure out who can help you solve that problem. Like you know how to get things done. And you're resourceful, okay? Blessed with the ability to charm, highly adaptive, always reinventing themselves. They don't change the world, they change into the world, survivors. It needs water, it needs wood, it needs fire and earth, and it dislikes yin metal because yin metal is scissors. So heads up, next year is metal ox, yin metal. So for Yinwood, you know, a little bit of discomfort, change coming. Now, not necessarily a bad thing, and I'll go a bit, but it means change is coming. So how do you adapt to that? If you know that change is coming and you're not going to like it, you get ahead of the curve and you make the change yourself. Well, usually this type of change means bringing some type of self-discipline into your life that's uncomfortable, that makes you better. And in this case, I'm thinking an exercise program, right? Famous Yinwood people are Madonna, Beyonce, Michelle Obama, and Princess Diana. Yang Fire is the sun, right? The beautiful sun. You know, there would be no life without the sun shining. And so the job of the sun is to shine. And so a lot of the times, Yang Fire people come across as having big egos, okay? Because that's just actually partly who they are, right? And so if you are married to one, that's who they are. Or if you are one, then be that. But that doesn't mean that you're a bully or you're not kind or you're not, you know, giving or generous. And actually Yang Fire people, one of the qualities for them is they are warm and generous people and often leaders of companies. Now, they're a bit self-centered, of course, because there's only one in the sky, right? And so it is difficult for them to understand the needs of others. They think what you need It is hard for them to actually understand what you need unless you're really clear in telling it to them. Yang fire, in order to have what we call a good life or to be famous, needs to be born during the day. Because if you're born at night, no one can see you and you might be really frustrated. Not so much if you don't want to be seen, but if you want to be seen for your accomplishments. And actually, tip for all of you who study Bazi, this is true for the Yang fire wherever it is in your chart. If the Yang fire, if it's born during the day, whatever that is, if that's your resource or your wealth element or things like that, it needs to be born during the day to be good. Otherwise, you're looking to ding, right? Very much important to look at for fire. Yang fire gives life to all things, highly independent, does not like to be constrained, values routine, but gets bored easily, needs nothing, but everyone needs them. Fears, what it fears, I don't know if that's the right word, is a cloud. And this year in the rat is a cloud. And so for Yang fire people, it is for many a particularly challenging year because they can't see clearly. They're covered by a cloud. So I have actually a lot of Yang fire CEO type clients. And one of the clues last year that I gave them to the energy of this year was I just asked, what happened in 2008, which was the last year of the rat? And how did you do? And one guy actually said, I wanted to commit suicide. This is a guy who always was, he's an online coach with thousands of clients. And the business that he was in had turned around. He felt betrayed by people and whatnot back in 2008. Plus, look what happened to the stock market and all that. So I was able to help him understand how time works in cycles, and that next year, this is even before COVID hit and all that, next year, some events were going to happen that he would need to pivot and change what he was doing. He was able to not take it personally, right? It was like, oh, that's just the weather that's happening now. This isn't I'm doing something wrong. Right. And because it's so easy when, especially once what we call a negative influence happens, if you're in it, it's hard to get out of it. But if you're actually ahead of time, like, okay, anticipating that that might happen. Now, as a result, because that he anticipated that might happen, he made some changes. He reduced his expenses. Actually, it's the biggest thing he did. He got rid of some office spaces even before this all happened, and was able to be ahead of it so that he didn't have as much pressure, okay? Famous Yang fire people, Steve Jobs, Steven Spielberg, and Adolf Hitler. Yin fire. So yin fire is like a candle or a man-made fire, or if you're born at, it can also be the stars in the sky, okay? The stars in the sky, depending on the different pillars. Bright, sensitive, passionate, oversensitive, extreme, detail-driven, good motivator, warm, bright, intelligent, gentle, but also fierce are words that we use to describe Ding, Yin fire. Think of them as the people that I know that are what we call good fire are motivators, right? And actually, I think Anthony Robbins is the ultimate Yin fire person, right? It's like this cheerleader for the universe. They are gentle, and yet they are also the daymaster with the biggest temper, because when you tip over a candle, it sets the whole room on fire. When I actually learned this about Yin fire people, and I have quite a few Yin fire people around me as well, one of the biggest clues I learned, because so that they're temperamental, the anger can flare up. What's the worst thing you can do to fire that's burning? Feed it. So you just have to sit down and listen. It will pass. And when it's over, it's over. And it's not personal. It's just a thing that fire does. Is it just explodes, rants, gone. Whereas, interesting, metal people never forget, because it takes a long time for metal to heat up and then a long time to cool down. So just understanding this helped me tremendously in my relationships with people, because I was able to see the world differently, right? And to see that, oh, it's not always so personal, and to take a breath, right? Yin fire people are inspirational, natural supporters. They love personal knowledge and growth. Fickle like the wind, right? Because it can blow out. often night owls, for good or bad, married to their mothers. Now I put here for good or bad. See, a fire needs wood, and wood represents mother here. And so they need the wood, but don't always like the relationship. So it doesn't mean necessarily that it's good or happy. Can rise to the occasion, right? Fire has the ability to become a big flame, but can also flame out. Definitely has to think about their health and work with their health, because they do get burnout. Anthony Robbins and Chairman Mao are two famous Ding. Okay. Fundamental needs. It needs wood. Now, if it has yang wood, it's a little bit tricky here. It needs yang metal, because only an axe can cut a tree. If it has yin wood in the chart, then it needs yin metal, because that's what cuts the grass. Okay, so a little bit different for qualities to look at a good life. It dislikes having yang fire in the chart, because then it is in competition with the sun. And the sun in a candle, only one can shine. So what happens if you are yin fire and you have yang fire in your chart? Feelings of insecurity, right? You chose a chart that you were born with where you feel insecure. So what could be a good thing about feeling insecure? That you strive to become better, right? That you actually that you actually have to work hard at becoming better, that it's just not given to you. Yang Earth, Wu. Okay, so this is a mountain. Now, mountains or rocks can be dry, they can be grassy. This all depends on the quality of the chart, what's all in the chart. So think of a mountain, large rocks, stable, dependable, trustworthy, slow moving, stubborn, loyal, integrity, sincere, tough, stable, protective. If this is your day master, these are qualities you have. Slow to make changes, thinkers, a lot of thinking, right? So overthinkers, people don't like to think that they're slow, but what I will say to them is it takes you a long time to make a decision, right? So procrastinate. The strong and silent type. However, all Yang Earth is potentially a volcano, okay? So they can be silent, but they can also blow up. Keeper of secrets, Earth, right? Everything is underneath the Earth. They hold the storage. One of the ancient texts say the storage of 10,000 things, right? People tell you secrets, slow to act, but once they get moving, they are unstoppable. It's really interesting, you know, so Roger Federer and Roger Nadal are both Yang Earth day masters. And with COVID, it'll be interesting to see if once a mountain stops moving, they often don't start moving again, right? They might retire. So it's curious to see, but once they are moving, they keep moving. So just watch and see what happens with people. A lot of Yang Earth people need clashes in their chart to get them going. Earth people tend to keep things the way they are, as a general dislike to change. Good Earth is stacked, meaning Yang Earth has a mountain underneath it. A mountain is then more majestic. So that would be if you are an Earth dragon or an Earth dog, particularly, Earth monkey, you know, like where there's Yang Earth underneath you, Earth tiger. It doesn't have specific needs, but likes water and some wood and some metal to be productive. So the water would make the Earth more fertile. The wood and the metal here is actually important to aerate the Earth so that it's not too blocked and stuck. Too much fire in the chart, it's scorched, and too much wood, it's over-controlled. What happens if you have a chart where it's over-controlled? That you have too many people in your life telling you what to do, and you don't like it. Yin Earth, very different from Yang Earth. Still Earth though, so still value trust and nurturing and supportive and all that, but now it's soft Earth. And the job of soft Earth is to grow plants. So think of soil that supports vegetation. It is productive, creative, nurturing, needy, strong desires, integrity, and sincere. Likes to work behind the scenes. I would say in general, all the Yin day masters are often behind the scenes, right? or part of teams, whereas Yang day masters tend to be more out front. It's a generalization. Yin Earth people are reliable people who easily get overused, abused. Need to learn to take it. Now, abused doesn't mean, you know, beaten. It means too many people asking you what to do. You know, can you do this? Can you do that? Like, excellent person to have working in your company because they'll do things, but they're hard to speak up, right? Need to learn to take care of themselves. What's the message with Mother Nature these days, right? Like the Earth, Earth is Mother Earth, right? She's speaking up and telling us we need to take care of her, right? And Earth people need to do the same thing. Often have overly protective parents. They are overly protective parents, pardon me. Famous Earth people, Barack Obama. Very curious, isn't it, that Donald Trump is also Yin Earth, and Celine Dion. They work well with all the elements. Yin Earth women tend to really love their husbands because it is their tree sort of providing stability to their earth. All Earth charts dislike too much water because it becomes mud, and they need to learn to take care of themselves and rest to accept support. One of the really important things in all chart reading and understanding day masters too is if the chart is cold or hot. That is actually one of the biggest indicators too, as to quality of life. When a chart is too cold, generally meaning you're born in November, December, or January, there's just this a strong water element and can be a lot of fear in the chart. And so you need fire. And so fire can be then literally the sun, or it's spirituality, right? As fire represents spirituality, and or personal growth, transformational things to keep you going. Whereas too hot a chart can make you not productive either, and give you health issues and different things as well. And too hot a chart would be more particularly June and July, May, June, July, the months of fire. So those are just one of the things to see as well. We like then the different elements to bring balance. If you're a hot chart, you tend to love being near the water. If you're a cold chart, you tend to love being in the sun, right? Yang metal. So yang metal in its original state is ore from the earth. It is not formed. It needs fire to become formed. Okay, the qualities for metal: proud, action-oriented, decisive, authoritative, impulsive, justice, fairness, authority, altruistic, decisive, sharp mind, loyal, straightforward, tough, because metal, right? Tough. The good news is it has to be tough. Well, actually, that might be bad news. But because in order to become the tool that it needs to become, it needs fire. And the quality of fire is painful, right? Forging it into a tool. So whether you have strong fire in your chart or not, life will teach you to become tough, and those experiences. And so when my Chinese teachers talk about yang metal, they actually say the earlier the pain, the better. And so actually when I said, oh, I was adopted, they're like, good. Because you need to go through those types of challenges in order to become what you could become. Yang metal values connection and needs to learn flexible thinking. To be a sword, you must be forged. It is through hardship you become skillful and useful. So direct officer is Yin Fire in this case, okay? So for those of you who know. So direct officer is routine. So if there's weak fire in the chart and you're working with a Yang metal client, tell them to get into routine, to do the same things regularly, to not break the rules. Training and discipline are needed for success. Famous Gung people: Queen Elizabeth II, Steffi Graf, and Margaret Thatcher, who curiously was already called the Iron Lady. Yang metal fundamental need is Yin Fire, and in order to have good quality fire, it needs Yang wood, okay? Even though wood is clashing element to Yang metal. Yang wood to metal is wealth element, meaning Yang metal needs a purpose in life or to work in order to feel successful, right? So do you start to see how the pictures put these together? Yinwood is its nemesis because the vine just chokes the metal, and it cannot use water in this case because water puts out the fire. Yin metal is very different. It is already formed and beautiful jewelry, or a knife, or a diamond. It is still altruistic. And actually, one of the things for metal as well is logical and analytical thinking, right? It's like a circle weaving. Why? Very curious minds. And so metal, because yin metal, because it's already formed, does not need fire. It needs water, because water makes it shiny and beautiful. So these years of the pig and the rat and the ox are providing water, right, for the metal to shine, yin metal. Dignified, creative, articulate, judgmental, vengeful performers, shiny, delicate, beautiful, attractive, likes attention and is an introvert, likes to give instructions. A yin metal person has a powerful sense of entitlement. Well, imagine you're beautiful. This is if you're a chart that has all the qualities to make you beautiful. You know you're smart. You know that you're beautiful. It doesn't mean you're necessarily beautiful, but if you aren't beautiful, you're smart. Highly expressive and emotional in your manner, speech, and your behaviors. You are susceptible to flattery. That's part of the thing. Famous yin metal people are George Bush Jr., Will Smith, and Angelina Jolie. It fears being buried by earth. So yin metal does not like a lot of earth because then it actually can't be seen. It loves water. It dislikes yin fire, and it likes yang fire because when it combines with that to make water. Like, it's a beautiful image. Okay, and I know for a lot of you this is advanced. Just take out of it, please, what you will and can. Yang water is the ocean, right? Calm on the outside, miles of information underneath, right? So yang water people look calm and are not calm. There's a lot going on underneath the surface. Water represents our thoughts and thinking. So, right, lots of thinking. So a lot of times I will ask a water person, how well do you sleep? They might have trouble sleeping because there's just too much thinking going on. Wisdom, driven knowledge, fickle, unrealistic, right? Water sometimes, well, water always takes the shortest route, right? And it's, can you stop a tsunami? Can you stop water, right? And so sometimes it just is too impulsive. Thoughts run deep and cannot be seen. Always on the move, restless, intelligent, adaptive, flexible and changing, very creative. For yang water to be what we call good water, it needs to be directed. It needs focus. So hence, for a lot of them, being married and having children and all those types of responsibilities are what they need to actually have to feel safe, right? Because if the water is flowing everywhere, it feels unsafe. Water people too, yang water particularly, are very private people because everything's hidden below the surface. That doesn't mean that they're liars. It just means they're private, right? Like, there's many ways to look at a chart. Whereas like the sun, yang fire, if it's on the top of your chart, what you see is what you get, right? It's right there to see. Dynamic, action-oriented people who excel under pressure. Pressure being that 7 killings, right? Like that yang earth that's directing them. Relentless, yeah, never give up. Still waters run deep. The consummate poker-faced person. Highly adaptive, can fit in anywhere. Need to guard actually against taking shortcuts. Not always the best person for attention to detail, right? Because water is too all over the place. Famous yang water people: Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Jennifer Lawrence. Water is inherently powerful. It is 80% of our planet. It is everywhere. So no matter what season yang water is born in, it is inherently not weak, okay? It needs control and focus, so it needs to have yang earth, and it also likes to be warm. So we like to see the sun. The conflict is yin earth, because yin earth turns you to mud and then you're not clear. This is something to guard against for next year because you inherently don't like that. Yin earth is in the ox. It is only This is the only day master that changes form, because Ren can become Gui, a cloud, and then the cloud rains and becomes Ren again. And last but not least, Yin water, a cloud, depending on the season, rain or snow. It's mysterious, wise, knowledgeable, unrealistic, fickle, imaginative, creative, supportive, and makes good teachers, because the job of Yin water is to grow plants. So they are inherently giving, they want. Now, a cloud also tends to be, many of our greatest philosophers and teachers, Joey Yap is Yin water, are Yin water people, because I feel that there's a way, they seem to have more intuition, if you will, or more of a knowing or just an understanding. A couple reasons. One is the clouds in the sky are the closest, along with the sun, close to heaven, right? Like kind of, it's like there's this just connection there. The other is Yin water is a mist. It can absorb whatever it's with. It can, go, you know that moisture can go into paper, it can go into earth, it can go into furniture, it can go into our clothes, it can go in our hair, like it just goes into whatever it is. So it has this knowing. It is able to focus its energy and know things. So hence they are inclined towards metaphysics. They cannot be controlled. Can you control a cloud? No, right? So lack of staying power. Elusive, fickle, moody, unpredictable. Inconsistency can be their biggest problem, and persistence is an issue for them. Taming their mind, calming their thoughts are challenges. It is the youngest of all the day masters, so not always practical, can behave childishly. And we've all heard stories, particularly of Elton John and Prince Charles, right? As it took them a long time to mature. Of the 10 heavenly stems, it doesn't like Yin Earth, right? Well, of course, because it can become muddy. It's not clear. Its need is to actually become useful. It likes to have a purpose. It is one of those signs: to water wood, to feed plants, which in this case is either children or students, right? It likes to have that. And it chases the sun, because Bing converts to Ren, Yang water, with Gui, so more friends. And it does not like Yangwood compared to Yinwood, because Yangwood, a tree, can cover the sun, and it likes the sun. So that's just some insights there. So that was a lot. That's an introduction, believe it or not, to the 10 stems. We, of course, if you take my full Bazi class, we get more into depth with this, but I hope this was useful. What we're going to get into now is a little bit of 2021 and the year of the metal ox and what that is to you. All right. On February 3rd, 2021 at 11:30 p.m. Now the solar calendar, this is the midpoint between the equinox and the spring solstice, like winter solstice, winter solstice and spring equinox. And that's the point where we say is the new year. And there's a chart done on that day that tells us some of the energies of what's coming. So I'm going to go more into depth with this in December and January as I do actual year of the metal ox full readings, full trainings. But for right now, what I would just want to say is one of the things that's coming, we are still in winter. And actually I talked about that when I talked about 2020 this year. The metal rat in the Sanhe compass is at 0 degrees. And 0 degrees on the compass is new beginning. It's like the end and the beginning, right? 360 and 0. So what is this year, 2019? It's winter. We are in that, the place where nothing is growing, so to speak, metaphorically or energetically. And we are in the void. That's actually the image of this year. And it perfectly is described by metal and water. Rats always represent secretive things. And so the energy of this year is like we're in the void, it's the secret. And we are all being confronted, water, fear, with our greatest fears, our greatest dislikes. And spiritually, we're being asked to transform that, because part of how we transform energy is transforming ourselves, okay? This year, there's a lot of conflict in the chart. Next year, there's actually not as much conflict in the chart. There still is fear though. So what that actually is just briefly saying is that the energy of next year is one where people will feel less fear, but there will still be the problems happening, okay? Now, one of the ways that we can work with a year is when we understand the chart. Now, I don't have time to go into this whole thing right now, but I'll just tell you the end game is the useful god for this chart is wood. We need wood to help bring into balance this chart. And what are the qualities of yang wood, right? It is about leadership and reputation and integrity and being steadfast, right? Discovering it's about have values. A good tree is strong and steadfast. And that's one of the answers is actually people who adhere to their values will do well when we work with the energies of the year. I've got some notes here. The image of the metal ox is earth, gold. There's gold inside the ox in the earth. And it's like there's a treasure inside the earth being unearthed, right? The metal on top is being unearthed. It is like a new baby. There's new energies being born. It is like new beginnings. So what's coming is new beginnings, right? The pillar, metal ox, is a sentimental pillar. People will feel calmer. There is an energy of healing. Emotionally, people will feel more in balance. The main trend, though, continues to be slow progress. If wood is the energy that will bring the chart into balance next year or to help, right, with that, one of the many things that wood represents is kindness. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Wood also represents growth and education and honesty and integrity, right? You cannot get what you do not give. That's actually one of the basic core fundamentals to energy is we have to be the change, right? And so be those qualities to bring in those qualities, all right? The year has up here what we call in the stems, yang earth and 2 yang metal and yin metal. If any of those are your day master, next year is more personal to you, right? It's like, and not for good or bad, it just means that you are in the year, right? And you will show up. And so it means it'll be a memorable year, right? Awakening is the theme, right? It's like the baby being born, awakening. Our true selves have the opportunity to awaken. For things to change, though, things need to change. It's never about the other person, never. It's always actually, the question is, why did you choose this? And what do I need to do to adapt? And so the law of attraction, actually, it is also being the change, right? Yeah, okay. I want to here's the chart. Okay, so the elements of the upcoming year are yin metal times 2. There's metal on the top and there's metal in the ox, as well as earth and water. So let's go through the 10 day masters here to just give you a start. So if you're brand new, this chart is just going to look like hieroglyphics to you. I know, but if you're, someone who studied, this will make some sense to you. So if you are yang wood, next year, yin metal to you is direct officer, right? And it's it's up in the branch and it's down below. Now, if you were a woman, this could potentially mean you meet someone, right? A husband, because direct officer can mean that. But this is the element that controls wood. Now, actually, let's first of all just go back. Does yang wood like yin metal inherently? Not so much. It's kind of like a knife, niggling at the tree. So a little bit of the energy is, it's like self-discipline, but annoying. Okay, so there will be an overall emotional kind of annoying feeling happening. And that's okay if you understand that that's what's happening. Inside the ox with yin earth, G is direct wealth. Money opportunities are there for you. And Gui, yin water, is resource. Your health should be okay. You should be supported. And I'm just giving very, very general readings here. Okay, this is just general, but just by understanding who you are in relationship to the year pillar already starts giving you a clue as to what's coming, right? If you are yin wood, yin metal to you is 7 killings. Now, again, that is the controlling element. And so what does yin metal to wood? It's like scissors trying to cut the wood. If you were working in a job, I would say there's a potential that, well, you're going to feel now, and also here's the other thing too, if you need to understand whether a bigger reading is actually needed to be really clear on this, because if you're weak or strong, these elements change, okay? Because sometimes you need them and sometimes you don't need them, so to speak. But in general, for yin wood with yin metal, it is scissors trying to cut you. So if you're in a job where you think there's a chance you might not have that job, okay? So if that's the case, that your job might change, be alert to opportunities, right? Heads up, be alert to opportunities. If you're a woman, it could mean you meet someone. That could also be, this could manifest in so many different ways. But it could also mean, promotion in a sense, right? A promotion with more pressure. Lots of ways that that could come up. So what this says to me is, don't be pleasing. If you're not sure how that will manifest, make sure you're useful. Make sure people need you. Give extra. Inside Yin Earth is indirect wealth to you. There are money opportunities. So definitely this could turn into your favor. And then your indirect resource is strong, which means your intuition is heightened. Okay, so your intuition is heightened, there's wealth opportunities, and then there's this potential change at work happening. So turn that into your favor, become more useful, become better, like, you know, and don't rock the boat. Don't be argumentative. There is a chance with 7 killings that you become somewhat of a bully, if you will, right? Like, and so make sure that you take a pause before reacting, okay? Yang Fire is the sun. Next year, yin metal, there are wealth opportunities for you. So there's job opportunities, your assets could grow. I see all that happening for you. If you are a man, you might meet a woman. There's hurting officer there, which means that you might be creating material or making things happen that make more money for you, doing presentations, all that stuff is favored. And then there's also direct officer, again, promotion and different things as well showing up as a possibility. Yang Fire does not like the cloud though, remember, right? It might be some confusion. Make sure you get advice or sound ideas off people, just especially because this year you're confused too with the rat there. And so, you know, ask people who are successful to help you and guide you, just to be sure if you're making good decisions. Yin Fire. Yin metal is indirect wealth. So there's investment opportunities. You might sell your house, like money coming to you, an inheritance, could be different things. And it could be also for a man, a girlfriend. There's also, you're going to be more creative. You're going to be eating better meals with eating God. And then there's the 7 killings there, which is like, and don't be worried about the word 7 killings. The Chinese have dramatic terms. If you're a woman, 7 killings could mean there's a man coming potentially for you. But it could also mean promotion or job or, you know, things like that. Yang Earth, yin metal, output. If you're a woman, it might mean you get pregnant, have a child. It's that possibility there. Yin, you know, rob wealth. I would be cautious in partnerships, right? You know, I'd be cautious in partnerships, get contracts, be clear. You know, you might be feeling a little bit insecure and comparing yourself, but there's wealth opportunities there as well, and they will come to you. Or else maybe the way to make money is in a partnership. Just be really clear about what that looks like, because it actually shows partnerships and output. Yin Earth has eating God with yin metal. So eating God, creative, good food, enjoying life, attention to detail, those types of things. And Gui, indirect wealth there, your ideas turning into money. So also wealth producing energy for you there with friend element. So again, a partnership might be indicated, or doing it with people and, you know, in general, feeling supported. Yang metal has strong rob wealth next year, meaning it should actually work with people, but be wary of it, right? Because if the energy's there, you work with it. Might be a little bit more competition, might need to work harder to get results. You know, that's okay. You just work, it might mean more pressure, right? A lot more pressure. So you take better care of your health, take better care of your resources, and take care of yourself. There is direct resource there, which means that the energy is there to support your health. I think you're going to need to do that. And then hurting officer, more speaking, more writing, more presenting, and those types of energies happening. Yin metal has the friend element, indirect resource, and eating god. Your intuition is going to be heightened. You are going to have more social contacts with people, and you're going to be enjoying life. So in general, I think not so bad. Be wary though that you could turn that, it'll be easy to not be productive. It'll be easy to just actually spend your time enjoying life and not actually getting ahead, because there'll be lots of opportunities to eat out or to be with friends and to do things. But you could turn that into networking. I think also when there's strong resource element happening in the year, there's a tendency towards a bit of laziness. And so it's important then to set goals and timelines and maybe be accountable to people, to make sure that that happens. Yang water, strong output with direct officer and Rob wealth. Even though that there's direct officer there, for a woman, this might mean you meet someone. Yin Earth tends to make Yang water a bit muddy. So it's going to be a little bit confusing, the energy of next year. And so just to be aware of that, and just make sure you have good people around to ask if you're seeing things clearly or not. There will be partnerships or people that you're doing things with there, and you will be also speaking or talking or presenting or doing those types of things. Hurting officer, when there's a lot of that there as well, be careful that you're not too argumentative, just for the sake of arguing or for being the center of attention. Set some goals now as to what do you want to do with the energy of next year? How can you be better, right? But you will be asked for your opinion a lot with the strong metal next year. And the same is true for yin water. Whereas yin water, maybe a better use of your time next year is in writing and putting together materials, but you will be focused, even though yin earth tends to be a bit of a muddy focus, and you will be collaborating and doing it with friends. So that was a very short version. I rushed through that. We'll be talking more about that in the future. It's just the beginning of how to see things. I just want to talk briefly. It's like the year of the metal ox. What I wanted to say, this is the flying star chart for next year. And I'm not going to get so much in what are the good areas, as a couple of things to have a heads up about is next year, star 5 is in the southeast, and we don't like to disturb star 5. So what you do is you have 4 months now. If you need to renovate the southeast or take trees out in vegetation outside or do those types of things, do that now. And if you or those of you who are consultants, give your clients a heads up now so that they actually have the time to get ready for that, so that they don't disturb that. You can't do anything in the east this year because the 5 is there. So continue to just keep the east as undisturbed as possible. Undisturbed, it's okay for regular use, no problem. This means no renovations, no digging, no major, anything out of the ordinary usual. And another thing for those of you who know how to accurately look for it, northeast 1 is the ox. So is that point in your house needing any work or care or anything? Take care of that this year, all right? For sure, and just start strategically thinking what needs to be done. We'll get more to that later, because I want to get to your questions actually. What can you do now? Well, a couple things. I just want to tell you what I do have online. I've created a couple of online classes. Change Your Space, Change Your Life is an online course, but it talks a lot about the 2020 energies, and there's still 4 months left. And so where's the nobleman, or how do you activate the certain areas of your house, and really what you can do. And so it teaches you how to go through the templates and all that. And so that's the regular price is $198. Right now it's for $99 for the next week. And then I have online, you can get a free space clearing PDF. There's a space clearing online class. There's Live with Purpose. And then coming up, December 13th, I'm going to be doing online Year of the Ox, and January 17th, right? So this will be in-depth classes on that. And there'll be some free stuff in between. Again, it's my pleasure to come to you and help you all, no matter where you're at. The big thing, though, that I actually want to talk to you about, and why I did Bazi today, is at the end of October, on the 29th, I'm starting a 5-week, 2-afternoon Bazi for Life course, okay? And it'll be Thursday and Friday afternoons from, I think, 12:30 till 2:30 or 3 type of thing. And this is where you actually learn in-depth Bazi. And many of you actually on the course have taken this in person with me. It used to be a 4-day course, and now I'm doing it 5 weeks online. And this is whether many people who come to study with me are people that have studied with other masters, as well as just brand new, right? Because if you studied with other masters, a lot of times you just don't actually know how to see chi or how to put it together. And some of you are actually consultants, but some of you are actually, this is actually a large majority as well, you just want to understand how to improve your own life and how to work with your own life. And that's really what I love to help you with, is how to see chi and how to work with that. So the regular price for this is $1,800, but for the next week, we're going to have a $600 discount. Now, if that doesn't work for you and you would like to do payment plans, just contact us individually and we'll see what we can do. All right. Now, I want to end this with, your environment creates your mind, and your mind creates your destiny, right? Because it is ultimately our mind. Now, the environment is not just the weather, it is also your Feng Shui, right? And I do have also a Feng Shui for Life, the online, the first study course is there as well. So if you want to study online, I now have students in different countries doing self-study. It's part self-study and part with me. But your environment creates your mind, all right? And your mind creates your destiny. Now really think about that. So that's why even at a minimum, it's important to clutter clear and to make it beautiful and to make the symbolism important, because it represents, it influences your thoughts, all right? When you look out the window, what do you see, right? Are you connected to that? So let's create a strategy that works for you. Set intentions. Now, if you set an intention that I want to feel more at peace, you've got to go and clean your place up so it looks peaceful, right? You want what you look out the window is peaceful. That might mean you have to move, right? But in order to, you set your intention and then you evaluate, where are you? What do you want to get in life? Where are you going to? Now, then you might not be able to move today, but everybody can start moving energy. And then at a minimum, start clutter clearing, right? And getting rid of what you don't need and moving the energy in your space. Burn candles, open windows, right? Pay attention particularly to the front door and the bedroom, all right? No matter who you are, let energy come in, because everything is energy, and let energy be outside. Take care of your environment. If you don't take care of your environment, you are sending a message to the universe that you don't care. And then the universe will bring that back to you. It really is, some of that is so simple. At the higher levels, to get to higher levels, absolutely, you got to know what you're doing. But at this one, it's like, just take care of your space and be responsible for who you are, right? Now, use appropriate symbolism. Now, the ancient classics don't so much talk about this, but our thoughts create our reality. You don't know how often I go into people's homes that are single or unhappily married, and there are no pictures of happy people on the wall. And you know what? It's hard to know, if you don't know what happy feels like, you are, our thinking is subconscious. You are actually consciously picking symbols that represent what you subconsciously like, because that's actually what we do, is we are attracted to what's familiar. We may not like chaos, but if that's what's familiar, you go into a space and it's like, oh yeah, this will work. Why? Because inside, that's what's familiar. If you don't know what the energy of good and positive feels like, that takes time to figure out. That means going to places where there's positive energy and feeling it and learning those vibrations to come into your body. Okay. So find pictures and images and words that represent growth, new beginnings, happiness, right? When we are in alignment with our destiny, there's flow and life is easier, right? And so I really hope that I have been able to give you some, I'm going to turn off the PowerPoint and get to some questions here. Wishing you all success and prosperity and love and light. It has been my honor to be with you. And